This is Denari Gift Segmenter Training Part 2. We're picking up where we left off. We were looking at the appeal code filter, and we saw that we had could choose a filter of equal to, and in this case we've chosen a 0061 code. Now, when using equal to or any filter like that that only requires one value, we don't need to put anything in the high value field. We can simply leave it as it is, equal to whatever that is, and we're going to get all the gifts then that have that appeal code. We also have available to us not equal to, so again that excludes this set of gifts, and so we're able to get then all the other gifts that don't have that 0061 code. We've also got down here between. Between means we have to now put something in the high value field, so it's going to be between this and between and that. And so in this case we have a code that starts with 0061. If we came up here and put in a code, let's say 0069, we're going to get all the gifts that have an appeal code that falls between 0061 and 0069. So we're going to get 62, 63, 64, 65, and etc. up through 69. And that tells us that Denari looks at the gifts when using a range in this way numerically sequentially and also alphabetically sequentially. And so if we chose a code here that starts with the letter B, for example, B something, and in the high value field we choose something that starts with the letter F something, then we're going to get all the ones between the B's and the F's and everything in between. And also we have not between available to us, so that works exactly the same way. We can exclude that set of gifts in that range. Now, once in a while, or actually probably frequently, you don't want all the ones between 6.1 and 6.9. You want maybe 6.1 and then you want 6.4 and you want 6.7 or something like that, but you don't want 6.6 and 6.8 and those kinds of things. And so we're able to do that here as well by using the in operator, in. In stands for in the list, basically. And when you do that, we can't use this little question mark anymore to select these. We have to know what the code is ahead of time. So you may have to go and look those up ahead of time so that you have the code, again, not the description, but the code available to you. So I'm just going to go ahead and take this out of here real quick. And now there's a special syntax when you're using the in operator that applies. This doesn't apply to equal to or between or any of the other operators, only within. And it's pretty simple, really. You enter the single quote and then the code. So we'll say it's 0061 and then a single quote. So what we're doing here is we're just simply surrounding the code with single quotes, comma, single quote, 00, and let's say we want 65, single quote, comma, single quote, 00, we'll say it's 69, single quote, etc. So we can continue on there. So notice that, again, the codes are surrounded by single quotes, separated by commas with no spaces. And so when we run this, then we get all those gifts that have just those three codes, rather than having to look at the entire range. We also have not in available to us, so not in again excludes this set of gifts from our output. Okay. Now moving down the page here, we have appeal active. Notice that by default we're getting all the gifts to all the appeals, whether they're active or inactive, and so we can choose here just the active ones or just the inactive ones. Campaigns, you probably know, campaign groups a bunch of appeal codes together. So over in the appeal setup form, we can link an appeal to a campaign and link multiple appeals to a campaign. So we group kind of a whole bunch of them together. And so the big advantage to that is in reporting. So we can now come here and say, rather than having to do this, for example, maybe we have 20 of these that we want to report on from time to time, and it becomes a really kind of a lot of work to have to type all of those in all the time. And so it's a lot faster to be able to group those together in a campaign. So if you've done that ahead of time, you can simply come here and say equal to and put in whatever that campaign is. We can use a little question mark to select that if need be. And then we don't need this up here. We can remove this filter and simply use equal to whatever the campaign is that groups all of these together. We can again look at active campaigns or inactive campaigns, and we can also use the income thrust field. Now, income thrust is a level above campaign, and it's not automatically turned on for everyone, but there's no additional cost to turn it on, and if you think you want to use it, just let us know and we'll turn that on for you. But basically it groups a bunch of campaigns together. So an income thrust groups campaigns, and campaigns group appeal codes, and so you can really have this kind of a pyramid of groupings here, and then report on the income thrust alone. Now, moving down the page, the fund department section works just like the appeal codes, except that they're funds and departments. And so the fund code, we have all the same operators. They work exactly the same way, equal to, we're going to put something in the low value field and so forth. Funds are canceled instead of making them active or inactive, so we're filter on that. And then down here, departments group a bunch of funds together in the same way that campaigns group a bunch of appeals. And so if you have a bunch of funds that you want to report on frequently, it's helpful to sometimes to group them all together into a fund, and then rather than typing all those out in the low value field for the fund, then we can just simply filter on the department and get all those grouped together. So again, working exactly the same way. Now, I skipped over this fund insulated field for a second because it requires a little bit of discussion. The insulated filter here is looking at a field in the fund code setup called insulated. So when you're setting up the fund, you can indicate by checking a box there whether this fund is going to be insulated or not. Everybody asks, what does insulated mean? And that definition is set by you. Denari has no real intention when they created Denari of what insulated really means. So you can define that in any way you want to. I know of one of our clients who has defined that as being their foundation gifts, and so really the whole purpose of it is just to give you some kind of a hook to be able to either report on insulated gifts or exclude insulated gifts from your output. And so in this case, they said, okay, we're going to set up a fund called foundation, and we're going to call that insulated, and they check the little box over there. And now anytime a gift is entered and that fund code is used, Denari considers that to be an insulated gift, which it really does nothing with, except that allows you to report on it here. So now you can go and say, okay, give me a list of all the insulated gifts. In their case, it would be the foundation gifts, or we want to exclude all the foundation gifts, which is really what they do most of the time. They say, okay, we want to find out all the gifts that came in last month, but we don't want the foundation gifts included in that. So when they create a gift segment, they just simply exclude that here. And so again, you can define that insulated field in any way you want to and use it or not use it, etc. Moving down to the gift details section, the very first field we have here is amount. Now remember that amount is looking at the gift characteristic. So amount is not the number of gifts or the amount of gifts added up that a donor gave. It's actually looking at the gift itself. So for example, if we say equal to and we put the number 50 over here, or probably actually what most people would do is greater than 50, we're not getting a list of donors who gave more than $50 over some date range. We are getting here a list of gifts that are greater than $50. And so that's important to remember. And again, a lot of people make that mistake, and it comes back to that basic rule or principle, is that we're filtering on gift characteristics and outputting gift information. And so just remember that this is actually filtering on the gift itself. Down here we have these two fields, charitable and sales related. They all work the same way, but it's important to note that by default, if you do nothing with the gift segment, when you create a new one, you're going to get all the gifts, whether they're charitable or not, and whether they're sales or not, and sales related or not. So you can set this if you want to. If you only want charitable gifts, then that's what you'll select, or non-charitable, etc. And then the same with sales. We can get sales related or not sales related gifts. And by the way, sales related is set up in the fund code setup form, just like the insulated thing was. The little checkbox there in the sales fund is what tells Denari that any gift to that fund is sales related. Okay, let's stop there.